So he gave me the $2 bill and he was like, this is for when you have good luck. And then he gave me his business card and he said, and this is for when you have bad luck. So welcome everybody to our first episode of Legal with Ease, hosted by Formulaw, of which your two co-hosts that are here today. My name is Denisa and I am the CMO of Formulaw, and this is Violetta, who is the COO. And you can tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. Welcome to our first introductory episode of Legal with Ease, hosted by Formulaw. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we started this podcast in the first place, which is essentially to demystify the legal AI tech world in general and just make this type of journey and world more accessible and transparent for startup founders, lawyers, and just innovators, entrepreneurs. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of introduce a little bit more about Formulaw and who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. So Formulaw is a legal AI platform, and we have been launched since January. We essentially provide tools for lawyers to handle contract reviews faster, securely, and more efficiently. But our vision is essentially to demystify this and make legal more accessible for small, medium-sized businesses and startups.
Also to break down any typical misconceptions that anyone might have about the law industry in general, because it's an industry that's surrounded by so much like air and prestige. So it's kind of like a way to bridge the gap between the legal tech industry and where it's going, and also kind of bring together that the traditionalist values of typical law firms in general.
Yeah. So my first question to Denisa is, why did you join the legal world? And just give us a little bit of a background about yourself, and how come you joined Formulaw and you became interested in the legal world, because you don't come from a traditional legal world.
No, I do not. If anything, I've been apprehensive about the legal environment in general, but I also think that most of these traditionalist industries that we've seen, such as finance, tech in general, is kind of just accelerating at a ridiculous rate. And law, which is one of these like sort of more old school industries, is also starting to see there's a lot of bridging the gap between typical technology companies and legal, because as legal and technology grow together, you start to need more platforms to facilitate just those things. So for me, joining Formulaw was like almost a no-brainer because it's such a young industry. And I do think that it's something that in the next 5 years will be so relevant to lawyers.
I completely understand that, but also, what is your personal experience with lawyers? Have you ever interacted with lawyers? I mean, you have had your own company before, and I'm pretty sure that you had to interact with lawyers before. So what was that experience like?
Oh, I hate dealing with lawyers personally.
Yeah.
I know that it sounds really harsh to say, but dealing with lawyers in general, especially the very traditionalist firms, it's expensive, it's time consuming, and it feels like nothing ever gets done how you want it, when you want it. And like I said, retainers are so expensive, and all of that really was a driving force into joining a company which sort of can help streamline a lot of these things, because that's coming from a small medium-sized business owner perspective. And I can imagine that people that are even smaller business owners, they probably find law and lawyers in general very daunting of an experience. So yeah. I think making law more tech orientated also makes law a lot more accessible.
Exactly. And I mean, just a little bit about my background. I am a lawyer myself.
Very good one. I hate dealing with lawyers.
Thank you. I mean, I had a little bit of a different background before I ventured into law, but essentially I studied in London, I studied economics, and then I decided I wanted to do something in the legal space. Did my law degree, finished that, came to Cyprus. I mean, I also kind of worked in other startups and businesses and law firms before I became a lawyer as like paralegal. And that was the one thing that I noticed, that a lot of these businesses were handling legal very inefficiently. So there was always like that one lawyer and that one paralegal in the team that struggled to keep up with all the paperwork. So, I mean, that kind of got me thinking why that is. And we are in a very fast-paced economy with technology changing how business is done. And I thought, well, what if there was something that could solve this issue and make legal more efficient, especially in the contract space? So that's how we kind of started ideating about Formulaw, and that's where we kind of ended up. But the vision for Formulaw is always expanding. It's not static. It's not staying in the contract space, but it's where we started off.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really interesting that that was like the starting point, because I mean, what you said is also true. It's so time consuming, like even just being on the receiving end of paying for, lawyers and paying for documents and paying for contracts. It truly is like, even on it's not just a tedious experience for the lawyers, it's a tedious experience for the customers or the clients as well, because you're constantly waiting on drafts, you're constantly waiting on this, on that. But when you're a lawyer, always have your hands full.
It's just a never-ending process. I mean, even as a lawyer that works in a law firm, I experience this frustration myself, and I'm not even the client, so I can understand how frustrated the client is when they're constantly receiving different versions of drafts and sending them back and forth. So
It's so tedious.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think that AI could ever fully replace a lawyer? Or do you think that lawyers like would even want that, basically? Like not to replace them inherently, but maybe replace most of their tasks?
I think we're definitely at a time when a lot of the routine tasks can be replaced completely, like the reviewing of contracts and drafting of contracts. I mean, the Western and more developed economies already have startups that have already innovated in this space and are quite, like they are already, like law firms are already using these tools. However, when it comes to replacing the real work of a lawyer, which is the more high value work of consulting, negotiating, etc., I think that's invaluable and that can't really be replaced, because all the knowledge that you have, I mean, AI currently at the current stage, AI isn't advanced enough to replace this type of work.
Yeah, I think especially with the ethics part of law, I think that's one of the most interesting parts, where AI and law can't really like overlap. But I mean, one of the best things about Formulaw is that even though we don't look to replace lawyers, we're looking at creating tools that just help lawyers be significantly more efficient. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, right, with AI and law is like, and it's kind of annoying that there's almost this pushback from these really traditionalist firms about using AI.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially in Cyprus where we are, I get this a lot. I get this pushbacks a lot when it comes to lawyers and just pitching it to lawyers. I mean, they all seem very, very interested at first, but usually they're like, okay, like I love how it sounds, and they just never try it out, or they try it out and it's just very difficult to get them to change their minds about it and switch to a different routine when they handle contracts and legal tasks. So I think it's just a mentality of legal which is still stuck back in the traditions, and it's very difficult to get them to shift, even though it would be in their best interests.
It literally would, because at the end of the day, I feel like the most time consuming part of being a lawyer are the things that could actually be so easily replaced. Like obviously you have the consulting and the ethics part of law, which like, I mean, it could be argued that maybe it will be replaced one day, but for right now, it won't be. But however, like the drafting and even sales agreements, like especially a lot of corporate law. I feel like AI could so easily just streamline these things, and it you know, like you don't need to wait like 2 to 3 weeks just for a contract to be finished. Like,
yeah, exactly. And also what's really funny about this pushback that we see in the traditional legal space of adopting legal AI tools in their workflows. I mean, everyone knows that ChatGPT is now widely used by all professionals, which is such a red flag because honestly, I know quite a few lawyers who just drag and drop like entire PDF documents with confidential information onto ChatGPT. And it's just so obvious that, and I mean, I think it is obvious. I don't think it's just obvious to me, but ChatGPT and other adjacent tools like Gemini still retain all your information that you feed it.
not just retain the information, they actually sell this information. Like OpenAI has everyone's data. Like,
Yeah.
Nobody cares, and lawyers will still put whole confidential documents into ChatGPT.
They
Like,
don't admit to selling it, but
I mean,
yeah,
allegedly.
yeah, allegedly.
But yeah, no, it's actually quite interesting because that's a big reason why I actually wanted to join the legal law space. Sorry, not the legal law space, the legal AI space, because I do feel like it's something that, especially now with so many different data laws, no one's really actually paying attention to the fine print and actually paying attention to how this data, which is all confidential in reality, can be misused. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think enough people care about it, you know? And apparently not enough lawyers. If you're seeing other lawyers actually just fully drag and drop entire documents into ChatGPT.
Yeah, honestly, it's and if lawyers use ChatGPT for their own legal work when they know the dangers of it, like imagine how other people like founders and other business owners with very limited legal expertise and knowledge, how they deal with their legal when they don't have the budget to outsource this.
Yeah, and it's insane actually, because when you think about the rapid growth of ChatGPT and how it went from like a year ago when like no one was really using it for anything, and now it's something that people use almost every day in their day-to-day lives for recipes, for just asking it random questions that they would normally Google and find answers themselves. Like, it's actually kind of insane that the law industry as a whole is having this pushback and this apprehension towards AI tools when they are then doing things like putting whole documents into ChatGPT. Yeah, it's kind of ironic in a way if you think about it.
That's exactly why we kind of wanted to start this podcast as well, not just to, have casual conversations and have coffee, but also to kind of demystify this idea of why even legal professionals should kind of be aware of AI if it's used in the wrong ways, and how they should just always approach it with caution.
No, it's definitely something that needs a lot more attention being drawn to it, because like I just said, it's something that is actually so important. Like, your data is actually very, very valuable nowadays, and especially confidential data is probably even more so valuable. And in the future, even though it's sort of like this gray area of like, oh, is it legal, is it not, are they selling my data, are they not, like, you never know what can happen in the next 5 to 10 years. There's already been so many major companies with so many ridiculous data leaks. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I mean, think about Ashley Madison.
Oh my God, yeah.
For those who don't know at home, maybe, like, there was a massive dating company that was built on the idea of like love affairs, and you would go on to this dating site to have an affair. And then they had like this massive leak, and there were suicides, there were obviously so many divorces, there were, broken homes.
That could be insane if any of that like confidential information that a lawyer inputs into ChatGPT can ever get out there. Like, that could be catastrophic for
governments.
Like that lawyer, that law firm has a responsibility, obviously, of keeping information confidential and never like leaking that or giving it to a third party. But they never think that ChatGPT is one of those third parties, let's say. As an entrepreneur and innovator yourself, and like a woman innovator. How was your journey, like in general, when you were starting your own business? Like, what were the difficulties that you experienced? Because I mean, we're both women and we have our own business, so, and we're also like now in our own kind of startup environment as well.
I mean, it's just quite typical. Like, as a woman, no one ever really takes you seriously. You know, you need to achieve a significant amount before people will actually look at you with even the tiniest amount of respect. That always sort of goes without saying. But even for other people in general, even for men in the startup space, you know, no one also takes you seriously as well, like when you're starting out, because I mean, what have you got to show for it, you know? So
Yeah.
But as a woman specifically, it is harder. Like, people will just assume that, you know, you're just playing around, that you just had one good idea and like that's it. Like, you need to convince people a lot more. Like, a lot of men in more powerful positions will always look at you differently. And it's really quite difficult nowadays as a woman. Like, you know, like we like to say and think that, oh, you know, like we've come a long way, which in a lot of ways we have, but there's still a long way to go, I think, for women, especially in the tech space.
Yeah.
I mean, same goes for most industries, but I feel like being a lawyer, at least you kind of get this sense of like achievement, and people can at least look at that and say, well, you're a lawyer, so you've come this far because you're a lawyer. I keep repeating it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're sort of just a woman founder, and especially if you work in marketing or in tech or whatever it may be, you need to prove that extra step.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating. Also, just saying for the viewers, well, for the listeners at home, for the viewers, they'll be able to see we have a little mascot here today.
Yeah.
And he's a little dog, so if you hear him panting, that is not one of the co-hosts. That is the little dog.
I think Remy is the highlight of this episode for sure.
Yeah, he is our little mascot, our Formulaw mascot.
Yes.
But like I was saying, yeah, being a woman in this industry means that you need to prove an extra 10 steps more than the average person. And even once you've achieved a lot, people will still not take you inherently seriously. And a lot of people will also just refer to you as like a diversity hire.
Oh God, yeah. That's so true. I mean, especially in bigger economies and countries than Cyprus, but you can still feel it very heavily in Cyprus when it comes to being a startup owner and founder. I think he's very comfortable on my lap.
Oh,
yeah. You do get quite a bit of pushback as well. Like most people in higher positions, especially, I mean, even in Cyprus, are male. So when it comes to get your startup out there, it's a little bit more difficult. But I think once you do have something to show that works, people start noticing you, people start respecting you more. It just takes a little bit longer for women to achieve that.
Yeah, it definitely takes a bit longer. And the other thing is, people will always ask you very annoying questions as well. They'll be like, oh, so if you're doing this now, when do you plan on having kids?
Oh,
when do you plan on doing this?
this?
When do you plan on getting married? And it's just like, bro, like
I hate that question. Bro.
I'm just
like,
trying to build something
on.
meaningful right now, you know?
Yeah,
like, I'm not thinking about that right now. So, and I'm sure you can really, really resonate with that too. Like,
I can really resonate. I mean, I also finished uni quite late, also because of the pandemic. So when I started practicing law, I was already like 26. I'm 28 now. So, I mean, I still have quite a bit to go before I start thinking about the other things. But yeah, I hate it when people are just like, yeah, when are you getting married? When are you gonna when are you having kids? Like,
and men don't get these questions either.
Men never get these questions because they can choose when they can have that.
And it just is automatically assumed that when men start working in business, that they never have to let that go because of their domestic like choices.
Yeah.
You know, like they can have as many kids as they want, they can have as many wives as they want in a lot of countries, and no one's ever going to question whether or not it's going to affect their job. When with women it's always a question of like, oh, you can never, you know, like have a career and have a kid, and you can never do this and do that, when in reality, like, I mean, if you just look at your own mother, like, who's such an inspiration, by the way, for anyone at home, Violetta's mom is a really kick-ass lawyer.
Yeah,
and
she is. Had
2 beautiful girls and still has a really thriving law career as well. She's one of the best lawyers in Cyprus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it goes without saying that, like, you can so easily do both. There's this weird conception that a lot of men have, and even some women have this conception too, that you really just have to pick and choose whether you want to focus on a career or you wanted to focus on your domestic things. And
yeah, unfortunately, I mean, let's hope that changes one day completely, but for now that's where we are. But moving on, I wanted to ask you a question. What is something that you wish you got told before you started your career in marketing?
Ooh. I think I wish that someone told me that, like, you just need to keep going. Like, it sounds like the most boring advice ever, but it stands so true. Like, the oldest cliches really are the truest, and the reality is that you just have to keep trying. You have to be persistent. You have to be annoying. You have to be the most annoying person in the room.
I feel like, especially when you think your idea isn't working or something just there's just an obstacle in the room, and you feel like that's it, like you can't really continue with this idea. I mean, obviously you need to know when something doesn't work and when you need to, like, flip it a little bit or pivot the idea a little bit, but when it comes to just continuing and just pushing through, that's obviously like something, like the best advice I've ever received.
Yeah, honestly, like, when I think about the most successful people I've met and I know, the one trait that I see amongst all of them is that they'd never take no for an answer when it comes to anything. There's no such thing as not being able to fix something.
That's very true, and it reminded me of a TV show that you recommended to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's called We Crashed, and it's the story of how WeWork started.
And their CEO, the notorious CEO, Adam Newman.
CEO, yeah, exactly. I mean, he was one of the best examples of never saying no, never taking no for an answer, always like pushing through. Obviously he overdid it because he never knew when to stop and change.
I mean, you say that, but he came away with like a ridiculous settlement. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, he was a very caricaturized version of the original CEO, but it still stands true, and it's the same trait. You know, you just can't take no for an answer. You have to keep pushing.
Exactly. I mean, he ended up getting a shit ton of money for
WeWork,
and then ended up abusing his role as the CEO of WeWork. But I mean, I think the point stands that you just need to know when something isn't working. In his case, he just wanted to build like an empire, and it just didn't make any sense, and he didn't listen to any of the advice of his board members.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was very successful, and because of his consistency and his like belief in himself, when he left WeWork, he started another company and ended up getting like $1 billion in investment or something crazy like that, even though he was quite scorned for his failure. Not like failure, like, I mean, it was kind of a failure.
It was kind of a failure in a way, because even though he came away with a ridiculous amount of money for his share in the company, he still left the company to like crash and burn behind him.
Yeah.
Which kind of showed that it was, even though he did want to be the CEO of WeWork and he did want that position, he still was ready to let it go when, you know, like, he basically jumped ship, essentially.
Yeah, he did.
Instead of actually trying to fix the engine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is not something I recommend to do to everyone who's starting out there. Never jump ship, fix the engine. Because if Adam Newman hadn't jumped ship, maybe he would be worth even more money today.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I mean,
We'll
I
never
feel like
know.
he was just a bit too unhinged towards the end.
Oh,
So, I mean, from what the series also portrayed, like his wife also had quite a bit of influence over him, and she didn't really have the best knowledge and expertise when it came to like
Yeah.
running a company, like a big company like that. And I mean, yeah, there were a lot of factors when it came to that.
Let's just try circle back to like legal now.
Yeah.
And as someone who is never a lawyer, what is like something that you were skeptical as being a lawyer and sort of seeing, because obviously you've had innovative ideas coming up with the idea of Formulaw and how it's pivoted since its conception, which is another thing you should actually talk about. But we'll put like a little marker in that one for later. But just for now, like what is something that you felt like in the law industry needs to kind of like grow a bit more, like something that needs to innovate slightly more?
I mean, I think currently, like the biggest segment of legal and AI that's evolving right now is tools for lawyers. So how to make legal work for lawyers more efficient. So all these tools with drafting and reviewing, etc. But when it comes to like direct to consumer products, like helping customers themselves deal with legal in a more efficient and accessible way, there are some products out there. Like there is a very good AI law firm that has been approved, that is regulated by the SRA in the UK, called Garfield AI, and that actually is very helpful for people who have like small claims in court. So that is quite impressive in my eyes, because I don't really see many tools that help small businesses or like individuals themselves. It's always tools that help lawyers.
That's so true. And I feel like as a small business too, like speaking from my own experience, like from starting out, like you don't really feel like you have the capital or enough prestige to actually even approach a law firm. You know what I mean? Like when you're just a small business, how are you going to think about the price of a retainer? How are you going to think about the price of even, a lot of lawyers will charge per contract sometimes, like it's kind of crazy. Like, so when you have small claims or even just small things like employment contracts or sales agreements, when you can just have like a tool which helps you streamline those things, it is so beneficial, not just financially, but time-wise, like your efficiency, everything.
How do I say it? But that's what I essentially also see in my day-to-day practice, that most clients that we have in the law firm are companies that can afford a lot of services, like a bundle of services together, because most law firms don't just like do one thing. It's very rare for them to do that. Only if it's like a very small and boutique law firm, I guess, and they have like lower fees. But when it comes to medium and larger law firms, they don't really have like small clients like that. So there's this gap in the accessibility for founders who are starting their own business and they're bootstrapping it and have no budget for legal. I mean, there is one company in the UK called Seed Legals that tries to like help startup founders for like affordable prices, but these companies don't really exist in a more mainstream way.
In an accessible way.
Yeah, in an accessible way.
Yeah, and that like the thought of that is really annoying, because like imagine how many people are, especially now there's a lot of like guerrilla production in tech. Imagine how many people are just coding stuff in their bedroom and they're making software and they don't understand the legal intricacies about it, about it. And they don't have the means and the initial capital to actually reach out to a lawyer and get it copyrighted or get it, like fully checked over to make sure everything that they're doing is in compliance. Like these are things that are actually so important for startups and small businesses, and it's something that is so lacking in the
Yeah.
industry nowadays.
And another thing that is happening now with the rise of ChatGPT and AI in general is that because of this lack of accessibility for smaller ticket clients, they just, instead of reaching out to a lawyer, they just go on ChatGPT nowadays and they
get
ask
bad
ChatGPT. They just
get
ask
bad advice.
ChatGPT. And the thing is, ChatGPT can be very convincing when it gives you a response, because that's just the way that it's been trained to like respond to humans, right? And because of the language it uses and because of how polite ChatGPT is, it can give you an answer with so much confidence even though it's wrong. And sometimes, and most times, it gives you sources that don't even exist.
Yeah, that's been a really interesting one on the internet lately, hasn't it? Like, I've seen so many reels and TikToks about people who are just regular students at university who are asking ChatGPT for specific sources, and then they're searching the sources in databases, and the sources don't exist. Like,
Yeah.
ChatGPT is literally making up sources nowadays.
Yeah.
So you really can't even trust it.
But I mean, this is not only a thing with university students, it's also a thing for lawyers. I mean, there are quite a few cases, and one very famous case, I forgot the name, but there was this one lawyer that went to court and started defending her case and citing cases that never existed in the first place.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think she got disbarred, or he got disbarred.
But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big fuck up.
Yeah, honestly, it's yeah, lawyers, beware of ChatGPT. I think this is the second time we
But it is a common theme though in the industry now. I mean, and maybe it is what is adding towards this apprehension of moving towards, you know, AI and automated tools, because you, to a certain extent, there are, you know, the tools for the masses that you can't trust. So when a tool does come around, like how do you know if you can trust it? Like you need to have certain assurances. And it's difficult to know what does have those assurances and what doesn't. But you know, unfortunately, you know that's why we're here today, though. Fortunately, not unfortunately. Fortunately, that is why we're here, so we can help you decide which are, you know, which are worth it, which are not worth it.
And I also think ChatGPT made everyone so lazy, especially and I think especially lawyers, because if you're about to go and represent a client in court and you use a source that you didn't check, like, come on. That's the whole point of going through law school and going through all that, like, studying and
you need
memorizing.
to do due diligence.
Like, come on, do your due diligence. Like,
yeah, I would be rather upset if I was paying someone on retainer and then I found out they were just like ChatGPTing all my shit.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'd be like, bro, what the fuck? You spent all those years in law school to use ChatGPT?
Yeah. Let's move on to a different kind of topic now. What do you think the wildest thing AI is going to do in the legal space in the future, like in the next 10 years?
The thing is, it's so hard to predict because, like I said, just how ChatGPT was 1 year ago and no one knew what it was, no one used it, and then how widespread it is now, it just shows that in the legal space in general, like, even though there's pushback, something could happen, something could come in, and it could change the game overnight. So realistically, like, I could say, you know, like, oh, AI will never replace a lawyer, but who knows, maybe in 10 years AI might just be replacing paralegals.
Yeah, I mean, I think it already is.
It already kind of is,
in some law firms. Yeah. I mean, one example is, I guess, Klarna. I mean, Klarna kind of got rid of so many employees because of AI, and then they were kind of facing the repercussions of that. But I mean, of course, medial and routine tasks in law firms are going to be replaced one way or another. Like, there's no doubt about that. It's just, I feel like
to what extent as well.
Yeah, lawyers can't fully rely on AI. There should always be those checks and balances to just ensure that everything is correct or true and not just based on a non-existent source.
That is true. I do think, though, that in 10 years, the legal tech space will be a very interesting industry.
All legal services are kind of being commodified. So I see a lot of legal tech in immigration law, a lot of legal tech in like small claims field of law, and different ones. Like there's another unicorn in America called Even Up that is also just in the medical, legal medical space. So it's very interesting to see how tech and AI is breaking up these legal spaces, making them more efficient. But we are also currently in the space of agentic AI now. And there's a lot of buzz around agentic AI and how agentic AI can revolutionize the legal space. So, I mean, OpenAI, the past 2 days has announced that they are releasing OpenAI agent, which it's not that surprising, but yeah, we have to see how that goes when that's available. But it's super interesting to see what happens, whether it actually works or no.
I think it's realistically, it is a really, really interesting industry to be in right now because it's so young. I mean, when we think about how, other tech giants were in the very beginning, like Google and even, most of social media like Facebook, Instagram, like I really feel like the AI industry as a whole is in that beginner phase of where we're finding out what works, what doesn't. And there will be a lot of really fast risers. There will be a lot that will crash and burn. There will be a lot that kind of come under the same umbrella that will get acquired by the same company and sort of all like regurgitated into one tool. And I think it'll be really interesting in the next 10 years to see what those tools will be.
What the leader of the legal AI space will be. I mean, right now we see that Harvey AI is rising quite fast and
the rise of
taking
Harvey AI.
the legal space by storm. It's very interesting to see that. I mean, they're a great company and it's very impressive what they're doing right now. And I do think that there's definitely going to be these like 3-4 players at the end of the day in like 10 years that will dominate the legal AI industry.
For sure. I mean, it's the same trend we see amongst most industries nowadays. Like there's not a lot of room for small companies that come in. If you're a small company and you come in, you need to just have a unique tool that will eventually get acquired by someone else that will put that tool into whatever it is they're doing. But yeah, I mean, it leaves for a lot of room. Oh, bless you, Remy. It leaves for a lot of room of uncertainty that is still quite exciting. Because like I said, it's a new industry. It's very young. It's fruitful. And there's a lot that's going to come out of it. And I do think that at a certain point, the traditionalist law firms will need to actually sort of just break and allow for themselves to be not overcome and not like, because at the end of the day we don't know if paralegals will still exist in 10 years or not. No one's to say. It's anyone's gamble, right? But it will definitely be an interesting journey to see where it leads. I mean, because like we've said, there are a lot of jobs being overtaken by AI right now, but with lawyers there is an ethical concern. However, in the journey of being a lawyer, and I'm sure you can talk way more about this than I can, when you start out versus how you end up as a lawyer, you kind of need to go through those tedious phases of going through the contracts, drafting agreements. Like you almost need to do that stuff in the beginning. Like you need to thug it out in order to become a really good lawyer at the end of it.
You really do. You have to go through the nitty gritty of it before you can go and consult people about legal. And I think that's something that on the other hand, you can't really say that paralegals will be replaced, because if paralegals are replaced, you'll never have like a proper lawyer that can do their job.
It's so true. Yeah. Like that's kind of the thing, is like, it's almost like saying that med school students will be replaced, but then who's going to be a doctor at the end of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, bless you, Remy.
Oh no.
Our apologies. Remy just got something stuck in his throat.
Terrible.
He's talking too much. But yeah, no, I definitely think that's it's a really interesting part of the industry, is where things might be 10 years from now.
From the one perspective, what paralegals do can be replaced by AI very easily. But that's in order for the law firm itself to make even more profit from it. I mean, it's a bit sad to think, but on the other hand, how can you get like a real professional lawyer whose advice and consultation is invaluable to the client? How can you get that type of lawyer without them having to go through that nitty gritty and like struggle at first?
But at the same time, like on the flip side of it, just playing devil's advocate, realistically, if you didn't need to be a paralegal, if you didn't need to be a junior lawyer, if you could kind of just be a really well-read individual and well-studied individual, do you think that you could skip that step if that step was already automated by AI and just become a good lawyer anyways?
I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky one. I don't think you can become a good lawyer without having to go through that phase.
The trenches.
Yeah. Because you can't draft a good contract without learning the basics, learning the language, the legalese. Language.
The legalese. Language.
So you do have to learn how to draft. You have to go through the mistakes and that torture of reading through dozens of contracts. But when you're a lawyer who has thousands of other tasks to do and you don't have time to review a contract, and you have to review a contract at like 11 p.m. when you come home to your family, for example, and you don't have the capacity anymore to read so many like words on a paper, then that's where tools like these are useful. And that's why we built Formulaw, because we're not trying to replace a lawyer. We're trying to kind of point them to the right direction,
make their life easier. Yeah.
Point something out that they could have missed. Like we had a client that reached out to us and said that, oh, I never even thought that this suggestion that Formulaw gave us, even throughout like my long practice. And it's a bit weird to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I would say that even though it's a very different kind of like growth you go through, it's the same thing for, you know, business owners and startups and founders. I think that in order to become like a really good CEO and a really good entrepreneur, you have to go through a certain level of struggle because it gives you perspective, you know. And I think that, you know, even though it's hard to imagine AI entrepreneurs and like, you know, doing a lot of the mundane tasks that, you know, you would do as like a startup founder, I think that it's the same sort of thing. I think that there are some things in this life which you kind of need to experience yourself in order to gain a certain level of experience and a certain expertise to be good at something. You can't just take someone and nepotism them into a good position and expect that they'll do well. People need to be educated. People need to go through a certain level of you know, hardship in order to get
and I think level. AI is probably going to show who the best professionals are, who go through that struggle, and who the like worst ones are. Like there's going to be quite a big inequality between these professionals at the end of the day, because there will be a lot of lawyers who start out and like use all the AI tools only, and that they can only rely on AI tools to do their work. But then the real and good lawyers are the ones that actually have to go through the hard work. But moving on, I wanted to also ask you another question about, from your branding and marketing perspective, how does like the legal AI space compare to that?
Well, legal marketing sucks.
Yeah, it really
Legal
does.
marketing really, really, really sucks. And I feel like a lot of traditionalist law firms really hinge themselves on the idea of just having long-term big ticket clients that, you know, are family-owned businesses, and they get passed down and they just stay on retainer and they're comfortable. I think that there is not a lot of like guerrilla marketing in law, and there's so much space for like creativity in that marketing, because especially here in Europe, we see very, very little. Like in America, it's a bit of a different story, because people will get a bit creative. Like they'll put their out on a billboard or something and, you know, have like a catchphrase. And but in America, you can sue anyone for anything. So like,
that's very true.
Whereas over here, we really struggle with law firms actually getting out there, and especially because there are no law firms that really try to cater to these, what we were discussing before, these smaller businesses or startups, because they just have too high fees, or it's just not something they're interested in because they're comfortable. I do think that when we come into the next generation of lawyers, there needs to be a bit of a pivot in the way that the law industry markets itself.
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few ethical considerations and obstacles for why law firms can't really be more creative and market themselves in a distinctive way. Because there are some regulation, like ethical regulations.
Because they're lawyers.
Yeah. They really shot themselves on the foot with that one. I mean, there's like a few rules that basically say you can't really say that you're a better law firm, that you have like lower fees or you have like success rates, like higher success rates. Obviously in America it's like completely different, like the regulations there are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to that. But I also feel like when it comes to marketing and branding, you can creatively go through a different direction and market and brand your law firm in a better way.
For sure. And I think it applies to not only just law firms, but any kind of traditionalist like industry, like whether it's finance or whatever it may be. I do think that there are always interesting ways to use the constraints that you're given with, you know, your marketing to actually be more creative with it as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of good examples off the top of my head because no one's really doing it right now. But there are, you know, like I said, I think that people should try use constraints to be more creative, not to just live inside the box of constraints. And that is more hard. And people typically like the idea of having a lawyer in a suit and who's really, you know, put together, and they have this, you know, like Harvey Specter-esque demeanor about them. But I do think that especially with the rise of AI and the rise of legal tech as an industry in general, I do think that in the future we will start to see this overlap of the tech industry and the law industry, and it's inevitable. Like tech is swallowing up every industry. So, you know, I do think in the future people also want, like this new generation coming up, I would prefer to have a lawyer who's more personable, who comes in flip-flops and is just more chill, you know, and is just...
Gen Z is about to flip the switch.
Exactly, you know, like I really think that there is moves to be made in that way. And I do think it makes a big difference because, I mean, if you look at the creator of Ethereum, people trust all these major tech players with their entire net worth in some cases. So it's kind of strange to say, why would I not trust a lawyer because he doesn't wear a suit or because the marketing is nuanced? Yeah,
I think we are really entering a different era of perceiving law firms and lawyers in a more casual way, and like we don't associate them wearing a suit with how good they are, because I don't know, like the era of intimidation is over.
It's so true. And that should be such an important catchphrase for Gen Z as a whole, is the era of intimidation is over. No one wants finance bros in a suit anymore. It's almost become a bit of a derogatory term now, right? Like no, like people are almost like, they almost are repulsed by the idea. And
I think, really are.
Yeah, and I think it's the same in law now. We're seeing law become more fun. We're seeing it grow into more fruitful, like seeing it conjoin into other more fruitful industries like tech. And I do think that with that will come a lot of shifts in the industry as a whole. And I think the marketing in the future will definitely reflect that. And I think some players are starting to already see that.
Yeah, exactly. And you told me one really funny story about how you got approached by a lawyer in a very clever way during your time in Miami, I think, right?
Yes, yeah. So I was at a convention, and whilst I was there was a lawyer who came up to me, and he gave me a $2 bill and his business card. And he said that the $2, because $2 bills in the States for all the Europeans at home are supposed to be good luck. And so he gave me the $2 bill and he was like, this is for when you have good luck. And then he gave me his business card and he said, and this is for when you have bad luck. which was just so genius.
That's honestly genius.
Yeah.
And I think more lawyers should have this kind of approach when it comes to just approaching new clients, and we don't really see that. I mean, at least in Cyprus, I never see anyone approach people with in a creative way.
No, never. Like, especially not lawyers. Lawyers here, it's a very, very traditionalist industry.
Yeah.
And we need to break those
barriers.
Bonds. Yeah.
And I mean, I was talking to a startup founder, and he was telling me his experience with legal and how he obviously didn't have enough like funds to approach a lawyer for him to like just draft the contract for him and review it. So he kind of did the whole process on ChatGPT, and then he realized that after he signed the document, he realized that he should have like consulted a lawyer, because there was like one clause in particular that in the future can cost him his like intellectual property and his patent.
No way.
It's a bit of a slightly like off topic, but just came to me now. But it's kind of insane. Like there needs to be like a different approach from lawyers to like startup founders. Like they need to kind of switch their tactics when they approach them.
Yeah, like they have to be more approachable to each other. And for all the non-lawyers or non-legal adjacent people at home, being able to take someone's intellectual property means being able to take everything from them. Like everything that they've created.
Especially because this guy spent like 20K on creating his like registering his patent, like in legal fees and in registration fees. So imagine in like 10 years, this guy's gonna come back and he would have lost his rights.
Everything, bro.
Even though like a patent usually lasts longer than 10 years, but there was this one clause that he said apparently that could cost him his patent, like his rights in 10 years.
That's insane. It's actually insane. It's a good thing he caught it.
I mean, it's too late now. Oh, Remy wants some coffee. Yeah, I mean, he didn't catch it on time though, because all the parties signed. So.
Oh shit! So he's actually just fucked.
You never know what happens in 10 years, but I mean.
That's true. Yeah. So we need to start wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I guess the whole point of this podcast is basically to, as we've discussed today, talk about legal, talk about tech, talk about AI, and all those three things put together, and also being a founder, what it means, marketing, the whole spiel. I'm sure you've gotten the idea by now, and you're probably sick of hearing our voices, but we will have quite a few upcoming guests on the next few episodes. And we will be talking to lawyers, we'll be talking to founders, talking to them about their experiences and what they think about a lot of the relevant topics we've discussed today.
It's going to be a very interesting couple of episodes ahead. If you would like to ask any questions, feel free to drop some questions
on the comment section. On Instagram, you can DM us on Formulaw.
Yeah, and also if you're ever interested to check Formulaw out, feel free, don't hesitate.
Yeah, we're also on LinkedIn as well. So wherever you want, you can ask us a question. The more controversial, the better. Gives us more to talk about.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's basically it.
Thanks so much.
Thank everyone for listening. If you've been here, if you've made it this far, that's incredible. We hope that we can grow a little community of people that are interested in legal tech and AI.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like we said earlier, demystify a lot of the stereotypes and make it more accessible for people who want to be adjacent to the industry. You don't have to be a lawyer to enjoy this stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you everyone. And goodbye.